one of you. And no, what did you tell me your name was again? Yes, R.E.B. Rev. Okay. Now, did you hear what he said when he uh, said something earlier as a visitor? What did he say? Yeah, he did say that. He said what? He said what? Our church. He didn't say, I'm glad to come to church. Oh, see, I was listening. You were listening. Okay. Our church. Thank you. Now, I feel good now. Okay. I feel very good now. Okay. Because when you come in here, you're part of our family. And so therefore it's our church. I appreciate that. I'm good to go now. Amen. Church over with. All righty. Okay. Again, always glad to see each one of you. We've been studying the book of Revelation for the last several weeks. And so this week we're going to part 4 of the book of Revelations. Again, reminding everyone that, are you recording? Okay. That the book of Revelation is written by John and the island of Patmos. John is said to be the same John that was that wrote Gospel of John, said that he was the only apostle who was not martyred, that he was the only one that actually died a natural life. And that's what that's what we think. Okay, so we're going to look at the book of Revelation, and again, it's one revelation, not a lot of different ones, but it's one, but a continuation of different visions that he saw. Okay, so let's get started. And for those of you who are new today, you may get a chance to read, may get a chance to talk. Okay. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, please stop me and let's talk about it. Okay. All right. That's how we do it here. Okay. All righty. By the end of this lesson, we're going to a couple of things. We're going to understand the seals, the trumpets, and the mark of the beast. The things that, that we kind of mysterious. All right. And okay, then we're going to identify the key figures and symbols, Antichrist, Babylon, false prophet, and we're going to see how the book of Daniel relates to Revelation. So that's our aim today. We'll see how far we get. Okay. Scriptures. Could someone read for us, please, Daniel 9:25? Daniel 9:25, please. Daniel 9:25.
Know and understand this. From the time that work goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be seven sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble.
Okay, this is Daniel prophesizing. And I know we've heard this before, I think. Some of us have been around for a while. 7 sevens and 62 sevens. What is that? A total of 69 sevens, which is 69 times 7 is, okay, multiply. How many weeks? Right. Okay, which is equivalent of somewhere around, give or take, 69. Yeah, 69. Okay. Now, in the Bible, we say that we look at a day as the same as a year. Okay. So it's actually that many years, not that many days. Okay? All right. Now, why is that important? Okay, because when we think of the book of Revelations, we think of 70 years. All right. And 69 are gone in the last year, the 70th year hasn't happened yet. Okay, has not happened yet. Okay. All right. So that's kind of where that comes from. All right. Now, let's see how that works out in the Bible. A decree was made to rebuild Jerusalem, and we find out in Nehemiah 2:18. That was in 446 BC. Okay. Then you have the 7 weeks, 49 years. Okay. All right. Jerusalem was rebuilt. Okay. Then after that, you have 62 weeks, which leads to the birth of Christ. Okay. A total of 69 weeks of 483 years. Okay. All right. Christ was born 32 AD. Exactly 483 years later. Do I need to say it again? Are we all there? Or do I need to say it again? If I need to say it again, that's okay. I need to say it again. Yes? Okay. Go back to Daniel. Daniel prophesied that the Jerusalem is going to be rebuilt and Messiah is going to come. Okay. Okay. And he said 70 before the end of time. Okay. And they broke it down. First, the temple had to be rebuilt because the temple was destroyed. The temple was rebuilt when the king gave Nehemiah the approval to go back and rebuild the temple. Okay. It took them about 7 weeks, 49 years to rebuild the temple. I need to say it again.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, you have 7 weeks and then you have 49 years in parentheses. Do you mean that 7 weeks is understood to be 49 years?
Yes.
Where do we kind of learn that from?
In the Bible,
Yes.
I forget the scripture says that a day is equal to a week is equal, God's day or God's week is equal to a year.
Okay, so 1 week is equivalent to 7 years.
One
I-
year.
Yeah, 1 week. So I'm looking at 7 weeks and seeing 49 years.
Right. 7 times 7. Go back to Daniel a minute. 7 times 7 times 7.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So
The rule of thumb there would be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. Okay. So 62 sevens. 62 times 7. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. That's where that comes from. Okay. So 1 year equal to 7. Seven times 7 times 7. Yeah. Yes. Yes. She's got it now. The doctor has it now. See, you know, see, 7 times 7 times 7. Okay. We good now? Okay. So we got 4. Okay. So now go back again now. Go back. So if you go back to where we were, then and keep going. Okay. So we got 7 weeks, 49 years. 7 times 7. Okay. Yeah, I lost you. All right. And
so I know how to do 7 times 7 times 7 or 7 cubed. I know how to do that math problem, but I'm just trying to understand what's written of 7 weeks and then parentheses has 49 years.
yes.
And in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, 1 week must be like 7 years because 7 weeks is like 49 years. But I mean, it's I don't know what, I'm just trying to read what's written there.
Yeah, no, it's, go back, go back, go back. Okay,
So you take 1 week and you say it's like 1 year, but then you say that's like 7 years. So you multiply it by another 7.
Praise God. Pastor, for me, I have this thing like on day, like it says that Psalms 94, it says that 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by God. 1,000 years are like a day. One day is like 1,000 years, because even it is repeated in 2 Peter 3:8 says, but do not forget this one thing, dear friend. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day.
okay, all right, okay, all right, go ahead.
I know people will use this verse. I was trying to get it up on the screen, which says, "For a day is like a year to the Lord." So here it says, "For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land yourself." And I think you can find instances where a day is used to represent a year. But I don't know whether I would be very strict on it because, like Fred just said now, it seems that, but yeah, I guess that's one of the verses that can be used, that is used by other people for the interpretation of 1 day being equal to 1 year. But I guess it depends on how much you're willing to use that or other parts of scripture.
Okay, all right, I understand. I do understand. Okay, so now, so it's, go back now. So if you have, you have the first two weeks, for lack of a better term, okay, is when the temple was rebuilt. Okay, all righty. 7 times 7, 490. Okay, all righty. And that's the 7 weeks. Okay, I'm sorry, 7 weeks. It was rebuilt by Nehemiah. And then the next 62 weeks, 434 years, he prophesied that Christ was going to come. And when you take that and look at it again, Christ then would have been born around 32 AD, which is when he was actually born. Okay, so therefore that prophecy, Daniel's prophecy was came true. Okay, then we'll find out that there is a break between the last week, the 69th week, and the 7th week. Okay, there was a break. That break is where we are now, and we call it the time of church. Okay, and then Revelations will pick up again, and then you get to the end time. So what I'm trying to do is just try to tie in the book of Daniel to the book of Revelation and see how they correlate. Okay, so even though John is talking about what's going to happen in the end time, Daniel had already began to talk about that. Okay, before John. Okay, now we know we all confused. Oh, it's clear as mud. Okay, good. Yes. Okay. Yeah, 7 times 7 is 49. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I have a question here.
Yes.
Wasn't Christ born on 81?
I'm sorry.
Or wasn't Christ born in 81? And,
No.
passed
No.
away between 80,
No.
around 80, 33?
32, 33. 32, 33 is when Christ was born.
I was under the impression that he died around 80, 33, but I don't know.
That's when he born, around 32, 33. Yeah, see, some people when they think of AD, they think of it as after death, so they think of Christ dying and then AD starting. It didn't work that way. They actually went back to his birth. So AD began when he was born, not when he died.
That's my point then. That AD began when he was born. So it didn't.
No, I'm sorry. I'm saying, I'm sorry. AD did not start when he was born. He was born 32. They went back,
Oh,
okay, and started it before.
okay.
Okay, yeah, it's before. So because AD does not really mean after death. AD is a Latin term, and I forgot the actual what it actually means. Right, after the year of the Lord. Right. Yeah, but it's I don't remember. I know it's not the day he was born. That I remember. I forgot how they started it. Okay. All right. So that's kind of what Daniel was prophesizing. Okay. Now the time between Christ's death and now is the time between the 69th week and the 70th week. Revelations is pretty much the 70th week. Okay? Okay. Are we good there? Somewhat? Okay. All right. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Daniel 9:26. Can somebody read that, please?
Matthew, Daniel 9, verse 26 says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined.
Okay.
Amen.
Now, this is the 62 weeks. Okay. And now, if we could talk about, we could show you the next slide here, but it says before the 7th-year period. That's the 7-year period is because of tribulation. Okay, tribulations, what people call it, generally speaking. That's the 7 years. Okay, again, that's in the book of Revelation. All right, and it says, but not for himself. Christ died for us. So Daniel was said that he was going to die, but not for himself. Okay, that's where that comes from. Okay, the people and the prince shall come. Okay, and that's the prince is not defined here as a good person. The prince is defined as a bad person. Okay, and it's Rome. Rome destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. Okay, and it ends with flood. Desolations are determined, and that's going to be the end time. Okay, we good there? Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, the 7th week tribulation, Daniel 9:27. Someone read that, please.
Daniel 9:27 says, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him.
Okay. Again, this is the 70th week. And this is Revelations. This is Revelations. Okay. As many people interpret it. Okay. All right. Are we good there? Okay, again, going back, first 69 weeks was from the begin, from the temple being rebuilt to Christ being crucified. Then you have the gap period. That's the period now, church period. Okay, and then we have the final seventh week, which is the years of tribulation. Okay, yeah, and that is divided into two parts. First part, and then 3.5 years, and the second part, 3.5 years for the 7 years. Okay? And then the end of the time, you have the end of prophecy. Christ returns and defeats the Antichrist. We good? Okay. All right. This is going to get even more mysterious and interesting as we go. Okay. All right. Now, we can start with Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6, you have horses, represents the progressive judgment. The white horse, which is in the Antichrist, the red horse, the black horse, and the pale horse. Okay, this is after, last week we started with the seals. Okay, there was 7 seals. We stopped there last week. Okay, the first 4 seals are open. These are the first 4 seals. These are the first 4 seals. So you go to chapter 5, where the seals, okay, and the scroll, okay, the 7 seals, and this is the first 4. Okay. Now we find this also. Look at Matthew 24, 4 and 5. Matthew 24, 4 and 5. Okay. Matthew 24 says, watch out that no one deceives you. 25. I'm sorry, 5, I mean. For many will come in my name claiming I am the Messiah and will deceive many. That's the Antichrist. That's back to Revelation. Okay. The first horse. All right. See, it's what's interesting about it is that it's on a white horse. So when we think of the white horse, we think of Christ, right? But the Antichrist is the person who's pretending to be Christ, but it's not Christ. Okay, trying to deceive. Okay, then you have the red horse, war, global conflict. Matthew 24, 6. Matthew 24, 6. You will hear wars and rumors of war, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Goes back to that horse. Okay? Then we have the black horse. Matthew 24, 7. Nations will rise against nations and kingdom against kingdoms. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Okay. Again, so you find it again in Revelations and you find it in Matthew. Okay. And then you have the pale horse, death. Okay. All right. Any questions there? All right. So now let's go back to Revelations. Go back to Revelation 6 and let's read 1 to 8. Make sure we see how it correlates. Okay. Okay. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, come. Okay. I looked and there before me was a white horse. His rider held a bow and he was given a crown and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. Okay. All right. This is okay. When the Lamb, that's the white horse. Okay. Okay. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come. Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Okay. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. Okay. Wait, any questions there? Okay, continue. 5, when the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there was before me a black horse. His rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Okay. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages. And do not damage the oil and the wine. Stop right there a minute. What is that? What is that? What is that telling us? At least what's interpreted. Things are going to be so bad economically that it's just going to be horrible. That's what that's saying. Because of the cost of the barley, okay, a day's wages. That means, you work a whole day to get just enough to eat. Nothing else. Nothing else. Okay? All right. And it says 6 pounds of barley. Okay, I'm sorry. And then do not damage the oil and wine because it's so important. Okay? That's the economic collapse that is being suggested. Okay, any questions there? Okay. All right. And when the Lamb opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of a 4th living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. His rider was Death and Hades. Death and hell was following close behind him. They were given power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Okay? So the 4th is not literal. It just means a lot. A lot. Okay. We good there? Okay. All right. Let's continue. Okay. Then in Revelation 6:9-17, it has the 5th seal where the martyrs cry for justice. The martyrs are people who were Christians who were being punished. They were being punished. That's why they call martyrs. Okay. And they're saying, "We've had enough. Can you help us out, God? Can you help us out?" Okay. All right. And the 6th seal is earthquakes, the sun darkens, and the blood red moon. And if you look at Joel 2:30-31, you will find that there. So Joel, again, prophesied that prior to John, just like Joel prophesied the Holy Spirit. Okay, Peter preached about that. All right. Okay. Any questions there? Any questions there? Okay. All righty. Okay. Now, chapter 7. This is a lot of discussion about this. It says that God sealed 144,000. Look at 144,000. Most people say it represents the tribes of Israel. And if you go to 12,000 from each tribe. Okay. Now, some people say it's literally only 144,000. Other people say that's just representative. But what we do know is that if you go through the list of tribes of Israel, that the tribe Dan is not listed. Of the original 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Dan is not listed as part of the 144,000. And so the question is why? Why was that tribe left out? Okay. And let's go back. Let's look at Judges 18:30-31. Can someone read that for us, please? Someone read that for us, please. Okay.
As it says, there the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests. for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land.
Okay, so there's a suggestion that the tribe of Dan was left out because they worship idols. Okay, so that's a suggestion that's being made. But again, if you go through the list, Dan is not in Revelations, but Dan is in the original tribes. Now, if you go through the book of Revelation, you find Joseph there, but you don't find Joseph in the 12 tribes. Why don't you find Joseph in the 12 tribes? Can you tell me? Why is Joseph not in the 12 tribes?
Because Joseph was given a double portion. So
Right. Joseph was given a double portion. Joseph did not actually get a portion. His two sons did. Joseph actually didn't. Benjamin, the other brothers did. Joseph did not. In reality, Joseph's two sons, okay, will receive the blessing. Okay. So what you find in the book of Revelation, that Joseph is listed as one of the 12, which is kind of interesting. Because again, you got the 11 that were original, removed Dan and put Joseph in Dan's place. Okay. Any questions there? Any questions there? Okay. Now, there are some denominations that suggest that the 144,000, I'm sorry. Yes.
We're talking about tribes, right?
Yes.
Are these the 12 tribes or different type of tribes?
This is some people interpret it as Jews. Jews. Okay. And some people say there's just anybody. It could be anybody, but still 144,000. But they use the names of the tribe as a way of differentiating.
So it's not the 12 tribes of Israel.
Some people say it is.
Okay.
Some people say it is. Some people say it isn't.
So why were you talking about Joseph?
Joseph
Yes.
was a Jew.
He was okay.
That's why. Okay. Joseph was a Jew. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions there? Okay. All right. Okay. So now there's as I'm going to say, there's some denominations that teach that only that 144,000 is their denomination. Not Jews, not Gentiles. It's their. If you're not a member of their denomination, then you're not going to be in 144,000. That's what they teach. So it's different interpretations. I would hesitate to agree with that one, but it's there. So just so you know, again, the idea behind these lessons is not to say this is the way it is, but it's to say what the possibilities are, so that if someone's talking to you, you can have an educated conversation about it, not be afraid to talk about it. Okay? All right. Any questions there? We good? Okay. Okay. Good. All righty. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, then you have the silence. Silence, okay? That's the period where there's nothing. Nothing's going on. Okay, nothing's going on. Okay, all right. And you find that in Revelation 8, 1-5. Revelation 8, 1-5. And this is the second part of the 7th year, of the 7-year tribulation. First 3.5 years, we just went over the famine, economic problems, etc. This is the second half of the 3.5. Okay? All right. Revelation 8, 1-5. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour, whatever half an hour is, when you multiply it out. Okay. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and seven trumpets were given to them. Another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all God's people on the golden altar in front of the throne. The smoke of the incense together with the prayers of God's people went up before God from the angel's hand. And A5, then the angel took the censer, filled it with the fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. This represents God. Represents God. God says, okay, remember now the martyrs have said, we need help. Okay, and God is now saying, I hear you. And now God is now going to reap wrath on the earth after us 3.5 years. Okay? Any questions there? Okay. Okay. First four trumpets. First four trumpets bring hail, fire, blood, as far as 1/3 of the earth. If you go back to Exodus 9:23-25, you find that there. Okay? A fiery mountain turns 1/3 of the sea into blood. Wormwood star poisons 1/3 of fresh water, and 1/3 of the sun, moon, and stars darken. All right? So this is what's going to, it gets progressively worse. Gets progressively worse. Okay. All right. And again, you find that very similar to the plagues in Exodus. Okay. The fifth trumpet, locusts. Okay. Torment for 5 months. Sixth trumpet is 200 million horsemen. Now, those 200 million horsemen are angels from heaven. All right. And they are attacking the unbelievers. They are attacking the unbelievers, the ones who have the mark of the beast, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. They are attacking those, okay? All right. And then the seventh trumpet declares Christ's victory. Okay? And if you go back to look at Psalms 2:6-9, you find that similar there. Okay? Any questions there? Okay. And that, again, that represents Christ's victory. 7 now, remember, 7 is complete. 7 means complete. All right? So that's the end. That's the end of the world as we know it now, and begins the kingdom of Christ. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. Now you have, go ahead. Then you have chapter 10-13, the little scroll, temple, and cosmic conflict. And the scroll represents God's judgment. The scroll represents God's judgment. All right? Okay. And in the last day. And it says it'll be sweet and bitter. Okay? Sweet and bitter. Why is it sweet and bitter? When you first eat it, it's sweet. But then when it gets to the stomach, digest, it becomes bitter. Okay? Both represents God. God's glory in the sweetness, and God's judgment in the bitter. Okay? Both. Judgment and bitter. Okay? And again, the bitter is the judgment. The ultimate judgment. Okay. Any questions there? Any questions there? Okay. Now, if you go back and look at it, it says that John was not able to read it because they closed it. He wasn't able to read what was in the scroll, but he was told to do what? He was told to eat it. he was told to eat the scroll. To go back to Ezekiel, Ezekiel prophesied very similar. He ate the scroll, and that's how he. So it's the same kind of symbolism. Same kind of symbolism. Okay. All right. Any questions there? All right. Revelations chapter 11, we talk about it was measuring the temple because it shows God's grace, how magnificent he is. And then it talks about the two witnesses. The two witnesses have been suggested to be perhaps Moses and Elijah being the two witnesses. Okay. They ministered during this time of tribulation. They went around trying to get people to change. All right. Now, it says two people, they're not necessarily be two literal people, but people preaching. People preaching. Okay? All right. All right. And so you have, and most people think that it's Moses represents the commandments, okay, and then Elijah prophesied. A lot of people say that Elijah was the greatest prophet in Israel. Okay, time. And they say that. Okay. Now, the other reason why people say Elijah and Moses is for, see if I can say this right. Elijah, did Elijah die? Did Elijah die? No. Elijah went up, okay, in fiery chariot. Okay? According to the Bible. Did Moses die? Huh? Did Moses die? Moses died. You sure? But it says what? It says no one could ever find his body. That the Lord buried him. Okay? Now, some people would argue that he didn't die. That what happened was that God recognized that the children of Israel had to begin to see Joshua as their leader and not Moses. And so the only way that they could do that is to have Moses go away. Or they would worship Moses. Okay? They would worship Moses. You understand what I'm trying to say there? Yeah, if you don't understand, tell me now if you don't understand. Okay. Because, so therefore, while the Bible says that, and correctly so, no one could find his bones, the reason why nobody could find his bones is because, that's right, he vanished. Okay. So that's the argument that some people would use about the prophets, about the two messengers being Elijah and Moses. Also, think of who did Christ see on the mountain? Who did Peter see Christ? Moses and Elijah. For the same reason. For the same reason. Okay? Questions on that? Now, again, I want to make sure you understand, I'm not telling you that that's the way it is. I'm just trying to explain to you why people think that's the way it is. This is the rationale. So that's why I asked you, did Moses die? And everyone says, not everyone. Some people say yes. And I'm trying to tell you why people think he didn't. Because he was on the Mount of Transfiguration with Christ, Elijah and Moses. Okay, any questions there? Yes. Okay, said buried by who? All right. No, it does. Because it says no one knows the place where he was buried, means that nobody buried him. Now, okay. I understand what you're saying. And let me go back and try to say this again. Right. I understand, but I'm try to say it again. When the children of Israel realized that Moses was no longer going to lead them and that Joshua was going to be the leader, what did God tell Moses to do? Moses went in front of everyone and said, this is your leader now. Now, do you think that people would just automatically say, okay, Moses, bye, and Joshua, hello? No. They ran the risk of potentially, now this is what people argue, that they ran the risk of continuing to worship Moses because he's the one that brought them out of the land of Egypt, okay, and not Joshua. So to remove Moses from the equation by he's gone. He's gone. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to give another verse that confirms about Moses' death. Like when we read from Jude before Revelation, Jude verse 9, like it says that, but even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil about the body of Moses, did not himself dare to condemn him for slander, but said, the Lord rebuke you. So it's just another confirmation from how you got it, like Deuteronomy talk about his death,
Yeah.
and then the archangel Michael was disputing with the devil so that the devil cannot take Moses' body. So like it's just another confirmation that Moses actually died. Yes.
Yeah. And then some people would argue that yes, there was but just like the devil was fighting for you and for me, is fighting for Moses. Some people would argue the same. All right. So I am not saying that this is right and this is wrong. I'm just trying to give you a sense of why people feel the way that they feel when they translate this or interpret it. I mean, that's why people say Moses and Elijah. Okay, because the argument is that Moses didn't die, that Moses is still around, and that Elijah is still around, and they were at the Mount of Transfiguration, and they will also be the two messengers in Revelations. Okay, and we find in the book of Revelations that the two messengers were killed, but they were raised from the dead. They were raised from the dead. Okay, that's what the book of Revelations talk about. Again, going back, is that were they really killed, or reality or not? Okay. Questions? Yes.
I wanted to add on our brother Matthew said that he said Moses died, but in Deuteronomy 34:6 said that God buried him in the valley in the land of Moab opposite Beth. No one knows his burial site to this very day, but God himself buried him when he died.
Yeah.
And his God himself is the one also took the body to heaven.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not trying to say which is right, which is wrong. I'm just trying to explain why people interpret that the two messengers are Elijah and Moses. Okay. All right. Okay. So at least so if you have a conversation with someone, you know where they're coming from. I'm not telling you to agree or disagree. Just telling you This is what people say. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go forward. You have the woman and the dragon in chapter 12. The woman is said to represent Israel. The dragon represents Satan. Satan, and it has the male child represents Christ. Okay. Now, again, it says that the woman fled, okay, into the wilderness, and God protected her for how many days? 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years, give or take. Back to how we count days and years and stuff. Okay? All right. Again, that's the second 3.5, not the first 3.5, second 3.5. Okay? All right. Okay, good. All right. Chapter 13. All right. The beast. The beast from the sea is often interpreted as a corrupt political power. And the beast from the earth represents the religion. Some false prophets, some false religion. Okay? And we find that those two combine to fight Christ, to fight God. Okay? Any questions there? Okay. Then we talk about the mark of the beast. Someone read that for us, please. Someone read that for us, please.
Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to them to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. And that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Okay, 666. Okay, so we hear this number 666, and people try to again interpret it, translate it to what they think it means. Okay, go to the next one, please. Okay. The Bible talks about a global economic system, Revelation 13:17. No one can buy or sell without it. No one can buy or sell without it. Okay? Now, people will say that that's now or getting there. Okay? People can say it's now or getting there. Okay? All right. It's linked to the worship of the Antichrist, those who take a pledge allegiance to the beast. Okay? It's placed on the right hand or the forehead. This could be symbolic or literal. And the number is 666. And it's associated with a human leader, a person. Okay? Go next. All right. A literal physical mark could be tattoo, a chip, computer chip, a computer chip. Okay. Now, have you read that there are some people who are saying that if you implant a chip in a person, they go to buy something, they don't need money. You don't need any money. Okay. And that's real. That's not almost. That's your WeChat. That's your Alipay. Okay. That's your Apple Pay. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
I'm always skeptical with people who who choose to go with this route of saying it's a chip. I know that there is a shop. I'll try and find, but I know in the US there's a shop that doesn't use barcodes because they think it's the mark of the beast, and there are people who think that credit cards are the mark of the beast. But I don't know. Why is it that people never assume that the money, fiat money, the one that we use, is the mark of the beast? I think it's always conveniently something that is limited to some form of use, and it's not because money is something that you will not be able to buy. You're not able to buy without money. So I don't know. I thought I would just throw it out there that there are a lot of these alarms, which I think they're false alarms, but
Yeah, you're certainly right.
Also about that, how do we differentiate the cheap to the new technology? I've seen in China, there are some places where they just scan your face, for example, as a payment method. How do we differentiate that?
Okay, again, I am not saying that Alipay and WeChat is the mark of the beast. I'm not saying that. Okay, okay. What I'm trying to do is tell you how some people have interpreted and why they do it that way, so that if you have a conversation about it, you won't be afraid to have a conversation about it. Okay, I'm not telling you anything factual. Okay, that I'm saying I can prove to you 100%. I'm just saying this is where the thoughts are to some degree. Okay, now okay, now again, the technology, the microchips, tattoos, facial scans, again, and that's becoming more and more a way of life now with the facial scans. Is it mark of the beast? I don't know, but they can certainly tell you a lot about you just by looking at you. Okay, all right, okay, all right. A symbolic mark, spiritual allegiance. Okay, could be literal or maybe not. Okay, but Ezekiel 9:4-6 says that God's people were spiritually marked for protection. Okay, so the mark of the beast could be a demonic counterfeit. The forehead represents thoughts and beliefs, so it could be just someone's thinking. They're thinking like the devil. That's why they have the mark of the beast, because of how they think. Okay, all right. All right, and any questions there? Okay, go ahead, next one. Okay, now, let me say this, that people throughout history have tried to apply 666 to a person. There was the president of the United States, his name was Ronald Wilson Reagan. 6 letters, Ronald, 6 letters, Wilson, 6 letters, Reagan. And a lot of people would argue that he was the Antichrist. Now, I'm not saying he was, I'm not saying he wasn't, but I'm just saying that's how people think. That's how people think, okay? Some people think that it's the Nero, the Roman Emperor Nero, because if you take the Roman numbers, letters, okay, and you add them up and add to the numbers, it becomes 666. Okay, and we know Nero was fiddled his way while Rome was burning. Okay, all right, and then there are other people that people have associated Antichrist to be a person, but they're using 666 as the way of trying to figure that out. Okay, again, not saying that it's right or wrong, just saying that that's what some people think. Okay, all right, go ahead. Okay. And then some people say now it's the future, which is now AI. AI. There are a lot of, I'm a part of a group of pastors on the internet, and there are a lot of people, a lot of pastors who don't use AI at all, because they equate AI to the mark of the beast. That's they equate it as that, the technology. Okay, because some people use it wrong. It's not. Some people certainly use it the wrong way. All right, all right. So again, that goes back to how some people think. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Just saying, just so that you know, that's why people might think they have a problem with AI. It's not the technology they have a problem with. The technology they okay with. It's what it represents. And some people believe that it represents the mark of the beast because, again, going back, it says that you can't buy or sell. Okay, if you have without the mark of the beast. Okay, now and the last one I think interests me says AI surveillance technology, China's social credit system. And you ever been on the train and they tell you, act right on the train? Okay, if you don't act right, then they're gonna report you to the government. And then, and I always start saying, now, what does that have to do with credit? But it does, because if you act out and then they say you can't buy a train ticket, you can't buy a train ticket, you can't buy anything because they take away your WeChat, take away your Alipay, and there's no money floating around, you got a problem. Okay? Again, it's just how people perceive things, not saying it's right or wrong. Okay? Okay, again, Nero 666, 6 in the Bible means incomplete. 7 means complete. So suggestion is that the 666 means you have rejected God more than once. Okay, that's a problem by rejecting God. Okay, yes.
Sorry to take you back to the Antichrist. The book of Revelation, I don't remember which verse, says that the Antichrist will come to rule the world. So those people who say maybe that president was the mark of the Antichrist, isn't he going to rule on the whole world? And he's going to come as, in a way, we will be able to see him, or the ones who will be here they will be able to see him.
Yeah.
As the same way we have our presidents, but there will only be one person ruling the whole world.
Yes, but again, that's what people were saying at the time he was living. You're talking about now from a historical perspective, well, no, he wasn't the Antichrist. But at the time that he was living, there were some people who said he was. So you understand? Okay. Now, hold that thought a minute, because the European, what do you call that? The European Union, EU, European Union. How many countries? Huh? 27 countries? At one time, it was 10 major countries. And the 10 were said to be the 10 horns. All righty. All right. It was said to be the 10 horns. So I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm saying that's how people have, because people are so concerned about what's going to happen at the end of time that they begin to try to figure it out. Okay, to try to figure it out. And some people are smarter than me, so I let them go and try to figure it out. All right. But that's the kind of thought pattern that comes into play. Okay. Now, so some people would argue that you say, well, it's going to rule everyone. Some people argue that, that every one person is the Secretary General of the United Nations. Some people argue that because the United Nations is supposed to be one world. People, you ever read about the one world government? There are some people who believe that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they really believe that there is a group of people who control everything in the whole world. Okay, they believe that. Okay, and we don't know who they are, but it's just a group of people who do control everything. All right, and so people try to equate that to this to Revelation. So again, it's not. I'm not trying to say it is or isn't. I keep saying that. Just telling you what people will say, what people think, so that And so that when you have a conversation with someone, you can kind of understand where they're coming from. You can agree or disagree, and you can have a basis for that agreement or disagreement, but you will have some idea of what they're talking about. Okay? Okay, let's see. What happens to those who take the mark? Revelation 14:9-1, they face God's judgment. 24, those who refuse will be martyred and will reign with Christ. Okay? All right. And so, again, going back to what we talked about, the horsemen, I mean, the 200 million horsemen, they're going to be fighting those who have taken the sign of the beast and been marked. They have accepted it. It's not the ones who haven't accepted it. Ones that haven't accepted it will be martyred. Okay? Will be martyred. Okay. Next. Is that it? Okay. Any questions? Any questions? All right. Next week, we're going to go on to the actual war between Christ and Satan. All right. And in the end. And we'll talk about the millennium, the 1,000-year period of time. And we'll talk about the three different beliefs when it comes to the millennium. Some people believe some people believe the millennium is going to be in the middle, and some people believe the millennium is after this period. And I'm not saying which one is right or wrong, just letting you know why the person might believe what they believe.
Mr. Joe, are we part of the 12 tribes of Israel?
We're part of the 12 tribes of Israel. That's part of the discussion. Some people argue that we are not. Doesn't mean we're not going to be saved. But that the Bible says that Israel is going to be reborn. It's going to be reborn. The temple is going to be destroyed, which it was. The Jews are going to be dispersed throughout the world, which they were, but that they will come back together. Okay. And some people take that as the country Israel. Okay. And say that's how they're back together as a nation now. And that's why there's fighting in the Middle East. Okay. That's why they're fighting there, okay? Because the Jews say that's our land. That's what the Bible says, that's ours. And of course, a lot of other people say, no, you're reading that wrong. Okay. But then there are other people who say that the 144,000 is not Jews only. It represents everyone who's a Christian. Okay? All right. Okay, other questions? Other questions? Okay, again, I'm not trying to confuse you, but just giving you an idea of how people think and why they think the way they think.
It's not a question. I'm actually posing a question to everybody because I think it's very important when I'm reading of the prophecies that we find in the Bible, in Daniel, the ones that Christ gives and the ones in Revelations. I always ask myself, what level of interpretation is appropriate when looking at such scriptures? And maybe, I hope that maybe we can think about this question and maybe someone can come up with an answer, because I ask myself, how much of it is just fear mongering? Imagine how life would be difficult if you chose that WeChat was the mark of the beast. So I don't know. And then I ask myself, how much of it is just dogma, where you just believe that because you've been believing it for a long time. And then I ask myself, if these scriptures were given to us, surely maybe it's because we have to be able to interpret them in some way. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it is not. It's not for us to interpret. So these are questions that I want to pose to you. It may be that we are given these prophecies. So that, there's in Isaiah 48, God says, I told you these things before so that when they happen, you may know. It may be that God told us these things so that when they happen, we may know. And when we get to the end, we may look at it in retrospect and say, yeah, well, God told us. So I don't know. This is a question that I'm posing to you. How much interpretation really should be obsessed about with respect to Revelations? Because I've watched a lot and read a lot about what people thought was the mark of the beast, who people thought was the Antichrist, and they've come and gone, and how many people assumed that the world was going to end in the 19th century, and here we are now. So that's the question that I want to pose. Like, and then this is not a sarcastic question. How much interpretation really is appropriate with respect to prophecies that are given to us?
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything else? All righty. Do appreciate it. If you get a chance, you can start reading from 15 through 19, 20, I guess, in Revelation. You kind of remind yourself of what it says. Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Joe. Let us be on our feet.